I personally look forward to this opportunity to have our entire student body and members of the faculty and staff together. We do it so infrequently due to the lack of adequate facilities to do so. There's something special about a convocation, an opportunity for us to be together and to share some thoughts, particularly at this time of year. And before we begin the Memorial Day festivities, I want to take this opportunity personally to extend my thank you on behalf of myself and my family to the tremendous outpouring of feeling and messages and cards of sympathy from individual members of this student body and from your families at a most traumatic time in my life. Your warmth will never be forgotten. Wakefield will forever be a special place in my heart as a result of students and your reaction to the difficulties that my family faced. But in fact, literally thousands of families in this country have faced traumatic incidents, the loss of loved ones, and we're here today to remember those men and women who made the ultimate sacrifice of laying down their lives so that we might have the opportunity to in fact be together today in a state of freedom, of hope, and a positive outlook for the future. So I appreciate the opportunity to join with you today to remember all of those who came before us, to remember their deeds, and to take a little bit of a time out in our busy schedules to do just that together. I want to thank the members of the Social Studies Department, and particularly those students who worked so hard to prepare this program. I'm proud of all of you, and I know that we'll continue to share good times together between now and everyone's graduation. Our Master and Mistress of Ceremonies for today's program, I'd like to introduce to you to kick off our festivities today, Ms. Jen Doyle and Mr. Jeff Baxter.
We would like to thank the band under the direction of Caitlin Campbell for playing 76 trombones while we were entering the field house. Also, the chamber singers under the direction of Glenn Curry for singing Go in Peace. To salute the flag by reciting the Pledge of Allegiance.
Soldiers and sailors of the Civil War, when flowers were placed in the graves of Confederate and Union dead in the spring of 1886.
Please welcome Megan Harrington of the senior class, who will provide us with a historical perspective on the Gettysburg Address, which will be read by seniors Bob Allen, Eva Foxen, Joe White, and Erica Salzman. On November 19, 1863, thousands of men and women, including many of America's most distinguished leaders, gathered to dedicate the National Cemetery at Gettysburg. Edward Everett, one of the country's greatest orators, delivered the major address, which lasted for about 2 hours. Then President Lincoln, who had been asked to make a few dedicatory remarks, slowly rose to his feet and began to speak, glancing down now and then at the sheet of paper he held in one hand. In less than 3 minutes, he had finished. The crowd applauded politely, but Lincoln left with the feeling that his speech had been a flat failure. The next day, Edward Everett sent a note to the president. I should be glad, Everett said, if I could flatter myself that I came as near to the central idea of the occasion in 2 hours as you did in 2 minutes. In his reply to Everett, Lincoln said, "In our respective parts yesterday, you could not have been excused to make a short address, nor I a long one. I am pleased to know that, in your judgment, the little I did say is not entirely a failure." Ladies and gentlemen, the Gettysburg Address.
Fourscore and 7 years ago, our fathers brought forth on this continent a new nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal.
Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation or any nation so conceived and so dedicated can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place for those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fit and proper that we should do this.
But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot concentrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men, living and dead, who struggled here, have consecrated it far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it will never forget what they did here. It is for us, the living, rather, to be dedicated here to the unfinished work which they who have fought here have thus so far nobly advanced.
It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these honored dead we take increased devotion to those the cause for which they gave the last full measure of devotion, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall have not died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, that the government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Lauren Bogus of the senior class, who will provide us with a historical perspective on Roosevelt's famous Four Freedoms speech, which will be read by seniors Jocelyn Herrick and Justin Donovan.
Shortly after 2 o'clock on the afternoon of January 6, 1941, President Franklin D. Roosevelt entered the House of Representatives in the nation's capital, and after approaching the rostrum, opened a notebook and began to read his State of the Union message to Congress. The House was crowded to capacity, for although the United States was not yet involved in the war, which had been raging for 16 months on 4 continents, most of America's leaders realized that American entry into the conflict was almost certainly only a matter of time. I address you, the members of the 77th Congress, at a moment unprecedented in the history of the Union, the President began. I use the word unprecedented because at no previous time has American security been as seriously threatened from without as it is today. The President then went on to discuss the crisis facing the nation and to warn that no realistic American could remain indifferent to the rising tide of aggression that threatened to engulf the world. In measured words, he concluded his talk with an eloquent and deeply moving appeal to his fellow Americans to rededicate themselves to the 4 essential human freedoms. Those simple and basic things that must never be lost sight of in the turmoil and unbelievable complexity of our modern world.
Certainly this is no time for any of us to stop thinking about the social and economic problems which are the root and cause of the social revolution which is today a supreme factor in the world. For there is nothing mysterious about the foundations of a healthy and strong democracy. The basic things expected by our people of their political and economic systems are simple. They are equality of opportunity for youth and for others, jobs for those who can work,
Security for those who need it, the ending of special privilege for the few, the preservation of civil liberties for all, the enjoyment of the fruits of scientific progress in a wider and constantly rising standard of living. These are the simple and basic things that must never be lost in the sight of turmoil and unbelievable complexity of our modern world.
The inner and abiding strength of our economic and political systems is dependent upon the degree to which they fulfill these expectations.
In the future days which we seek to make secure, we look forward to a world founded upon 4 essential human freedoms. The first is freedom of speech and expression everywhere in the world. The second is freedom of every person to worship God in his own way, everywhere in the world. The third is freedom from war, which translated into world terms means economic understandings which will secure to every nation a healthy peacetime life for its inhabitants everywhere in the world.
The fourth is freedom from fear, which translated into word terms means a worldwide reduction of armaments to such a point and in such a thorough fashion that no nation will be in a position to commit an act of physical aggression against any neighbor anywhere in the world. That is no vision of a distant millennium. It is a definite basis for the kind of world attainable in our own time and generation. That kind of world is the very antithesis of the so-called new order of tyranny which the dictators seek to create with a clash of a bomb.
To that new order we oppose the greater conception, the moral order. A good society is able to face schemes of world domination and foreign revolutions alike without fear. Since the beginning of our American history, we have been engaged in a change, in perpetual peaceful revolution. A revolution which goes on steadily, quietly, adjusting itself to changing conditions without the concentration camp or the quicklime in the ditch. The world order which we seek is the cooperation of free countries working together in a friendly, civilized society.
Those students who are members of the Wakefield High School Chamber Singers have distinguished themselves and through their excellence have brought tremendous credit to Wakefield High. This morning they will favor us with their rendition of Shenandoah, a classic sung throughout our country in ceremonies such as these. Please welcome under the direction of Senior Christina Yang, the Wakefield High School Chamber Singers.
At this annual assembly as a true teacher, willing to share his thoughts with students on matters which are truly relevant to us. Please welcome Mr. Terrence Holmes, Superintendent of the Wakefield Public Schools.
Good morning, and a great morning it is. Memorial Day, for those of you that have been to these ceremonies before, has very special meaning to me. When I was 17 years old, yes, your age, 17 years old, a taxi driver knocked on my mother's front door and delivered a telegram. That telegram was from the U.S. Marine Corps notifying her that her oldest son had passed away the day before in Formosa, in the U.S. Marines fighting in a conflict between Formosa and mainland China. Memorial Day has great meaning to me. A brother, 21 years old, a brother that I lost the opportunity to grow up further with and enjoy. My children have never had the opportunity to do it. In many ways, Memorial Day doesn't have an especially great meaning to you people. And in some sense, that's great. It means that you have not been touched by the death of war. Perhaps your brother or sister has been off in the war, a father, an uncle, maybe a grandfather, but hopefully many of you have not been directly touched by the effect of war. Memorial Day in many ways still, though, does have significance to you, especially those of you who are looking ahead to graduation this year and next, because you too are 17 years old, and soon will be off to college, and yes, many of you may even be in the armed services. In a month, in 12 months, 18 months, 2 years, One of you here could be in Bosnia. You could be in Haiti or you could be in Somalia. And who knows what stray bullet would hit one of you. And that Wakefield would be saddened certainly by the negative impact of that particular issue. So you are affected by Memorial Day, and I hope you will take a moment sometime over this gorgeous weekend to think about that. I think it's also useful today to take just an additional thought. Let's think about those students who are going to school this morning in Springfield, Oregon. Students just like you, who were ravished yesterday by a mad student with a gun, who certainly killed a classmate and injured many others. That, unfortunately, could also happen in Wakefield, Massachusetts. My challenge to you today as young people is to assure that it does not. That if you know of anyone among you who is struggling in their life to the point where they would consider such a rash type of action, that you will have the courage to come forth and identify that person to one of us, one of your school administrators or fellow teachers. So let's pause and be grateful today for all the treasures that we have, all the great things that we have in Wakefield. From great music, to great drama, to great sports, to great academics. Wakefield is a wonderful place to be, and we should celebrate that this weekend. But let's also take a moment this weekend to make and assure ourselves that Memorial Day is meaningful to us. And let's pause and remember those who help provide the good things that we enjoy. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the introduction. As you may know, in order to prepare for the assembly, we encouraged freshman social studies classes to prepare posters and banners. And you see their work product here on the easels, both to my left and to my right, and also on the back wall. We offered a prize, and we received wonderful work from Mr. Dagnese's class, Mrs. Harrington's class, and Mr. Moscadini's classes. You may take a look at these if you haven't had the chance to look at them in the cafeteria. The awards are such that a runner-up prize is being awarded to Mr. Moscadini's B-block for the star that you see posted on the back wall. And this was an election, as you well know, and the winner is Mr. Moscadini's B-block for the banner. Now, everybody in Mr. Moscadini's B-block will get a gift certificate to the school store. If you catch me on Tuesday, come and see me Tuesday, and you can collect your banner. Now, is Tim Murray here? Tim Murray? All right. Would you come down here? Tim is a member of Miss Schilling's photography class, and Tim put together a photographic collage that was also part of our contest entries this week. This is a photographic representation of different portions of various monuments around town, and represents what we feel and what Miss Schilling feels is absolutely outstanding work. This is what we did is we made a copy of this and we mounted it for Tim And we're also going to keep one copy that we're going to circulate between the art department and the social studies department. But I think Tim should be recognized for this effort. I think it's certainly extraordinary and an indication of some really, really fine talent. The person that won the contest and identifying was Joe Presta. Joe Presta also will receive a gift certificate from the school store for $25.
To remember those who have died in defense of our freedom by having parades and memorial ceremonies in their honor.
While many of us are relaxed and enjoying the pleasures which this freedom brings, our fellow classmates who are members of the marching band will honor those who have died for freedom by participating in Memorial Day celebrations in Wakefield, both in the morning and the afternoon.
This morning, the award-winning Warrior Marching Band, under the direction of Greg Anderson, who also arranged this piece for the band, will perform a selection which has been identified for decades with the reverent traditions of Memorial Day ceremonies, Amazing Grace.
An important part of the traditions of Memorial Day is to decorate the graves of fallen soldiers with the American flag. Please welcome Senior Joe Presta to share the thoughts of Henry Ward Beecher on our national symbol.
Thoughtful mind, when it sees a nation's flag, sees not the flag, but the nation itself. And whatever may be its symbols, its insignia, it reads chiefly in the flag, the government, the principles, the truths, the history that belong to the nation that set its foot. When the French tricolor rolls out to the wind, we see France. When the newfound Italian flag is unfurled, we see resurrected Italy. The United Crosses of St. Andrew and St. George, on a fiery ground, set forth with the banner of Old England. We see not the clock, and it rises up before the mind the idea of that great honor. This nation has a banner too. The American flag is a symbol of liberty, and men rejoiced in it. Not another flag in the globe with such an errand went forth upon the sea, carrying everywhere, the world around. Such hope to the captain with such glorious titles. The stars upon it with the depending nations, like the bright morning stars of dawn. The stripes upon it with the beams of morning. If one then asks me what the meaning of our flag is, I say to him, it means just what Concord and Leslie meant, what Bunker Hill meant. It means the whole glorious Revolutionary War, which was, in short, the rising of a valiant young people against an old tyranny to establish the most momentous doctrine the world has ever known, or has since known. The right of men to their own selves and to their liberties. This American flag is a safeguard of liberty. Not an atom of the crown was allowed to go into its insignia. Not a symbol of authority from the ruler was permitted to go in. It was an ordinance of liberty by the people for the people. That it meant, that it means, and by the blessing of God, that it shall be to the end of time.
The raising of the American flag as a symbol of our freedom is often accompanied by individuals raising their voice in song. The Wakefield High School Chamber Singers, under the direction of Senior Christopher King, have followed that tradition in asking that God bless America.
During these ceremonies in 1994 and 1995, Wakefield High was honored to have Mr. Sabatino Sam Benedetto join us as a featured guest speaker.
Many of us will remember with a gentle smile his enthusiasm, his vigor, and his energy as he spoke of his experiences having come from Italy with his family at the age of 2, more than 80 years ago.
Sam Benedetto served the town of Wakefield for many years as a public official and was always known as a person who would speak his mind and fight fiercely for any cause he thought was just.
Sam Benedetto, as a senior citizen, was always willing to share his time and his insights with students at Wakefield High. He was a person who spoke openly about his commitment to the freedoms guaranteed by the First Amendment, his pride in the town of Wakefield, and his patriotic love of country.
Sam died in July of 1995, 1 month after he last appeared at Wakefield High. To honor in his memory, the students of Wakefield High School have established the Sam Benedetto Memorial Day Freedom Address. Megan Harrington and Matt Harrington will introduce this year's speakers.
Nancy P. Brodin was born on January 7, 1973 in Bogota, Colombia. She lived there for 11 years. On February 11, 1984, she moved to Boston, where she attended Boston Latin Academy. She was granted a full academic scholarship to Regis College. On May 21, 1994, she graduated from Regis with a Bachelor of Arts degree. From there, Brodin enlisted in the Officer Candidate School in Quantico, Virginia. On August 19, 1994, she graduated from her Officer Candidate School and commissioned as Second Lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. She attended the basic school in Quantico and then Basic Communications Officer course. In January of 1996, Brodin moved to Pensacola, Florida, where she took a Cryptologic Division Officer course. On April 29th, she reported for duty as a Signals Intelligence Officer at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. She was first billeted as an Executive Officer of Headquarters and Service Company. On January 1st, 1997, Brodin was deployed as Officer in Charge of Detachment to Panama. Then in April, she served as a Legal Officer for 2nd Intelligence and Electronic Warfare Battalion. On January 1st, 1998, she was honorably discharged. Brodin now works at the Wakefield High School, teaching Spanish and world history.
Peter J. Brodin, born in Wakefield, June 6, 1970. He attended Wakefield High School in 1984 to 1988. He earned an ROTC scholarship to Boston College in 1988. He graduated from Boston College in 1992 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Business Administration. In May of 1992, he went to Officer Candidate School, where he was commissioned as a Second Lieutenant in the United States Marine Corps. In September of 1992, he went for advanced training at the Basic School. In April of 1993, he reported to duty as an artillery officer at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. In June 1993, he participated in an artillery officer course at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. In November of 1993, he reported back to Camp Lejeune. In February of 1994, his unit deployed again to Okinawa for 6 months. In August of 1994, he reported back to Camp Lejeune. In November of 1995, he reported back to the basic school again for duty as a tactics and leadership instructor. In March 1st of 1998, he was honorably discharged. He now works as a corporate trainer at the Sapient Corporation in Cambridge.
Good morning. Today I'd like to thank you all for granting me the honor of this opportunity to address all of you. 4 years ago yesterday, I accomplished something that had never been accomplished by anyone in my family before. I graduated college. For many, many years, I contemplated going into the military, and then finally, 1994, which was a turning point in my life, I finally came to the decision that I was finally going to do it. I've done it all, I've done everything, I had gotten all my paperwork ready, I had filled out all the applications needed, I had done everything but signed on the dotted line. And yet, I still had a little bit of doubt. I still had a few things that I needed to work out within myself to finally decide whether I was going to go ahead and join or if I was going to put it aside and go on and move and do something else. decision. And a million things that went through my mind, and a million reasons why I should, and about 2 or 3 why I shouldn't. But there were 2 major factors that made me finally come to that conclusion. Okay? One was a class that I took that last semester, that final semester in 1994, that taught me, it was a literature class in Latin American literature. Okay? It taught me about all the suffering that had been going on in Latin American countries such as El Salvador, Guatemala, Mexico, Argentina, Nicaragua. I read many, many books that talked about all the injustices that the governments of those countries commit against their own people. Okay? There were many books that went into very vivid, very gory details about children being burned right in front of their parents, parents being burned right in front of their children, people being tortured for years and years and years on end. And I learned about the battle, the unending battle that these people have been fighting to simply have some of the things that all of us here take for granted. To simply be free to live. To simply have the freedom to dream, the freedom to speak out, and the freedom to live. As a little girl, I remember hearing certain things that touched upon that on the news. I remember listening to the news, and I didn't understand quite what it meant up until that class that I took my senior year in college. At that point, I realized that the reason why I had done all the things that I had done was because I moved to this country. Had I stayed in my country, in Colombia, there was no way that I would have accomplished all the things that I had accomplished. Okay, and that was the second thing. That was exactly the question that I've been asking myself for so many months and so many years. Should I actually do this? Why am I going to join the Marine Corps after having done all the things that I've done? Why am I going to waste it all away joining the military? Well, that's why. It's because I was able to do all those things. It's because I was able to graduate college. It's because I was given the opportunity in this country to do all the things that I want to do and to accomplish all the dreams that I had dreamt from the time that I was born up until my senior year in college. So finally, around that time, about 4 years ago today, I was finally at peace with myself, and I had finally come to the decision that this country is worth dying for. Freedom is worth dying for. Democracy is worth dying for. And I not only went into the Marine Corps to fight for my freedom, I went to fight for your freedom. I went to fight for the freedom of my family, and I went to fight for the freedom of my children and of generations to come. Okay?
I'd like to thank you for giving me a chance to come back here and talk to you all. Whoever invited me, I appreciate it. 10 years ago, what was I doing? 10 years ago, I was sitting in the stands right where you are. 1988. Right before Memorial Day weekend. Thinking probably the same thing you were all thinking. What's going on this weekend? Who's having a big party? I was thinking about graduation coming up. Now, one thing I want to find out, how many here are seniors? Raise your hands. Okay, keep your hands up. Now, of all the seniors with your hands in the air, if you are female, put your hand down. Now, out of all the male seniors, if you are 18 and older, leave your hands up. Okay. Now take a look around. All right, you can put your hands down. Something I want you to think about. 45 years ago, those students that had their hands together, 18 and older, wouldn't be here right now. 30 years ago, they wouldn't be here right now. You would know where they were. 30 years ago, you'd go home at night, watch TV, and maybe you'd see them on TV. Graduation
You have empty seats. I want you to think about that. Luckily, here in 1998, that's not happening. We're not having to take 18-year-old men and women and make them go fight for this country, because at that time, our country needed them. Our country needed someone to go out and fight for us, fight for our way of life. This Monday, the whole country's going to take 1 minute at 3 o'clock. If you're listening to the radio or watching TV, there's going to be a minute of complete silence. I want you to start thinking now, not only during that minute, but throughout the day on Monday, what are you going to think about? What do you think about on Memorial Day? What do you remember? It's not about wars. Memorial Day is not a day to think about all the battles we fought. It's not about which country won and lost. It's not about the politics. It's about people. People just like yourselves. People who just turned 18 and were shipped off to another part of the world that they never heard of before. Who had to physically fight for our freedoms. It's about people out there right now conducting training. And I'll tell you, the training that we do is dangerous. And unfortunately, people die every year in training. But they're training for what? They're training in case they have to fight for us. Everyone in here. It's not the high-tech weapons and missiles and planes that we have that win wars. It's people. It was 5 people that went to the top of Mount Suribachi on Iwo Jima that raised that flag. When they got to the top of the mountain, they fought their way up there. They didn't stop and get a drink of water, get something to eat. They raised the American flag. It was people that stopped a country like Germany from spreading the Nazi regime around this whole world. It was people like Dan Jones, who graduated Wakefield High School in 1988, that I knew since kindergarten, that went to the Persian Gulf and didn't come back alive. What do these people die for that we're remembering? They died for our freedom. Bottom line. How many people in here like to say what you like to say? How many people like to pray whatever religion you want to pray? How many just like to choose what you want to do in life? Think about other people's freedoms. Think about some of the wars that we've had where we're protecting another country. You ever talk to someone that was from Kuwait? I'll tell you what they went through in 1990. Just imagine, right here in the town of Wakefield, a whole bunch of tanks rolling down Main Street. And you have an enemy that's coming into your house and tearing everything out of it. And you see your parents dragged away from you. And you see your brothers and sisters killed right there on the streets in front of you. That is what those other countries had to go through. Is that going to happen in this country? No, it's not. I'll tell you why. There's 2 reasons why. One, we've got many people that are out there right now protecting you as we speak. But the second reason is what you should be thinking about on Memorial Day, is that a lot of men and women before us stood up to the fight and allowed us to live the way we live today. On Monday, be grateful. Say thank you. And the last thing I'll say is I know some of you are joining the armed services real soon. I've talked to a couple of you. Good luck. You'll enjoy it, I guarantee you. And for those of you that are in Mrs. Walsh's math class, don't worry. You'll be all right. God bless you. Thanks.
After World War I, Memorial Day became a time to honor men and women who sacrificed their lives in service to their country in all wars.
In recent times, the custom of Memorial Day has been expanded as a special occasion to honor and decorate the graves of all deceased loved ones.
Each and every one of us has been touched personally or knows someone who has been affected by the loss of a loved one.
In the spirit of Memorial Day, we invite you all to stand for a moment of silence and reflection out of respect for our departed loved ones, to be followed by the playing of taps by Paul Wong and Chris Nelson, and the singing of the national anthem by the chorale.
Please be silent. Now Mr. Blanchard has a few words.
Thank you very much, Jeff. I'd just like to take a moment to do two quick things. First of all, to thank Mr. Casey and Mrs. Peterman and Mrs. Schilling for their contribution in putting this program together this morning, and all of the outstanding students that participated. Also a thank you from the heart to Ms. Smith and Mr. Shabaro and the outstanding student musicians that you've heard and enjoyed this morning, both vocal and instrumental, and also to thank you for being an awfully fine audience. One last thing. 2 years ago, actually, as you heard Jeff and Jen mention earlier, we started a tradition which we call the Memorial Day Freedom Address. And we named the address in memory of San Benedetto, who for many years exercised his freedoms, especially his freedom to speak his thoughts in our community at town meeting and elsewhere. It's a particular thrill this morning to present a plaque to a former student of mine and of ours at Wakefield High School, and to his wife, now a member of our faculty. So would Peter and Nancy Broding please come back up for just a moment? And Peter and Nancy's name will be permanently inscribed on our plaque in the Social Studies office, following the name of John Encarnacio, who was our Freedom Address speaker last year. So once again, thanks so much. It really was a thrill to hear Peter and Nancy this morning. Thank you.
Thank you for your attention. Everyone, have a nice Memorial Day weekend and go to D Block.